In the aisle, he sat alone in a chair. He was dressed up in all his old flair. Someone whispers that he used to travel internationally. To see him playing in here is the height of irrationality. He had all of his buttons laid out. It was all a little embarrassing, no doubt. I stood in line, believing it would be very long, but I was standing next to him by the end of the song. Before I knew exactly what I was saying, I was asking him what was to him dismaying. Why was he here? What exactly came about? His answer came in a song and a shout. Yes, at one time I stood just a little taller. I didn't have to dance for every dollar. So when you feel like everything's going fine, remember you're only one misstep to the breadline. You say you never meant for this to happen to me, to make the same mistake before you got your degree. All the idiot marks on the dash were lighting up. How would it have been different if you were free? You look in the mirror and try to exactly foresee whether you can get rid of it after the breakup. In the wilderness is where you got your house. Addition will fix everything, says the spouse. He says it's love, but must mean it in vain, since he does nothing to help but cheat. At your most vulnerable, you must compete. With her, he now is in his domain. For the young ones, you always have to explain how he only thought of how to use their pain. Thought you found the one who'd rescue you. He got his checkbook out and he overdrew. You were tethered to him for 5 long years. You were reliant, but you didn't have any qualms until you were forced to call into your mom's. Because he turned when he had too many beers. You left the ship and had to visit the island's prison. The blood was dripping and bruises had already risen. You thought you had to lie in order to attain your future, so you could be and feel secure. But it sure wasn't making you feel very pure. You didn't want to feel like you'd thrown it down the drain, 'cause he only thought of how to use their pain. I wish you could find it to be yourself, to picture the world and make it yours. You need to find how to grow your bubble, to rely on no one who will release your troubles, so you no longer have to survive the wars. You knew to escape when the glass was punched. Under his fist, it had been completely crunched. But you only called the cops when the sink was broke, 'cause it's not worth it without running water. You knew at the end you'd be a victim of manslaughter. You told me all this while contending with the smoke. The couple in the car were missing their shirts. You started getting ideas, and I know it hurts. But you knew inside yourself you had to attain. I couldn't convince you to find a way to stay. In my eyes, you were looking to see what they'd convey. In the lights above, I'd say they sure did strain. The only excuse was you were in the wrong lane. You only thought how to use their pain. When I opened my mailbox, I had some letters. I wonder who they could be from except debtors, petitioning for funds they'd never received. The first one had a different name, and I was relieved. The government was looking for child support, and I was wondering who was on the run and $1 short. Did they miss their family, or were they hiding in the Caribbean playing the piano and wearing a beret? The second letter was stamped important information. When I tore it open, it wasn't asking for a donation. I realized it was at the wrong address. It detailed some poor woman's abscess. I didn't know how to get a hold of her. And when it came to this, I'm no connoisseur. But she must have been out there lying in a lot of pain, with her sheets and mattress and blood stain. The third commanded me to open right away. When I cut it open, out came a rug I was to pray. On and a ring I was to wear in a form, to pass through the storm. If I sent it back, they'd give me a coin, and curse my enemies if I would join. I put my neighbor's name down when I was drunk, so they could start getting all this junk. was coming down the slide. He said, "Hey, have you heard this song?" I just looked at him like a stranger. He started singing, "Just come along." I hadn't heard lyrics like that before. Ones that praised the slacker. The one I'd been raised to abhor. And it struck me quite like a firecracker. I memorized all the words. And then 20 years later, I still dwell in a world where, whenever I hear it, I think of when I was introduced to the boy named Joel. I watched him bloody himself, fall off and break his arm. I was alarmed since I hadn't seen Joel had fallen such a charm. He smiled as he recounted the deed, though to be real, there were tears that day, even though he'd like us to forget that, as if we hadn't seen his time of dismay. One's body can be broken and still, they have their pride, not dispel. No worries, it's only my bones. Could only be said by one named Joel. One day Joel told us it changed, or at least his last name was another. When we asked him why he did it, from the truth he told us he was further. But I could appreciate the need for being fresh. I know a time or two I'd entertain the thought of burning my ID and all my cards and becoming someone that was previously not. Except for him, I didn't notice the difference. Just a name easier to spell. So he didn't have to keep explaining himself to anyone other than he was named Joel. A paralyzed lizard climbed over a rock, chasing a cricket for its dinner. Joel stomped on it, and I was ashamed at the laughter that arose from this sinner. To take a life is a sacred thing. But he responded, animals are only mechanical, and they were placed on earth for our desires. But I thought, even if true, it's tyrannical. How do you treat what's under your feet, whether it's moving or just a shell? Though I never verbalized it properly, because it's not cool to disagree with the guy named Joel. He often tended to be quite cruel. In my direction, he'd throw an undercut and made me reconsider his company. When I'd take another punch in the gut, physical strength and size of the laws that govern small, tight communities, and Joel dominated in those categories, so I tried to escape when I had opportunities. He'd shove you in the ground for a nickel, and forsake you forever for a spell, if it meant he might earn some quarter, because that's what it meant for him, to be Joel. My tears dried when he packed his gear and said I'm moving over the hill, looking for something a little sweller, though to drop by I of course will. I enjoyed the peace and dreaded the war when he tried to rule from afar. His minions never mentioned him in absence, even though when he was close, he was Tsar. I saw it took no power to betray, and it took infinity to keep people in a cell. This very important lesson about power and its relationships I learned from a man named Joel. When he started tinkering with tools, I knew we were all in for something. He had a taser that could shock you. When it'd sneak up behind you, it'd give you a sting. For kicks, it'd get you to writhe on the ground and ruin your day by giving you a tattoo, fashioned from his homemade gun that he made in his kitchen with the leftover screw. It'd draw anything you wanted if you just paid for one night in a sleazy motel. I never considered the mistakes could be permanent until I met the boy named Joel. Years later, I'd nearly completely forgotten about Joel and everything he used to do. But someone told me he was married to a nice girl everyone wanted to pursue, and that he'd traded his usual polo shirt for a white lab coat and long lists that he'd used to sort out patients and their L's, aches, wells, and cysts. I was glad that he was happy, but mainly thought of what I had to sell to end up with a plot twist like that. The story of a man named Joel. He got into a very serious car crash. I don't know if he was driving too fast, drinking too much, distracted, or on hash, but reconstructive surgery was floated, and they thought he might not be the same. I guess I decided it'd calm a bit and stop and take stock of what happened. But the facts I can't omit. He returned with a stronger vigor. Maybe a person can't make their spirits quell. You can't lock up what you are or who you become. Just another lesson I learned from a man named Joel. His name crossed my mind the other day. I realized I no longer cared. It felt like a lifetime ago. Perhaps I should be happy I got spared. What he's doing now is fine, as long as it's something I don't see. Whenever it becomes my turn to speak, my only wish is for him to be absentee. I hope to never see him again. He can have heaven or have hell, as long as I get to keep the earth away from the one who's named Joel. It's something you've seen a million times before. He saw his life as a young man a chore, so he decided he was gonna get on TV. He'd cross any line just for people to see. They'd have to reckon when they turned the dial. He even changed to an unnatural hairstyle. To get noticed, he'd go that extra mile. The producers were irritated at his behavior, so they planted him in church to find a savior. The parson read from 2 Thessalonians and discussed the destruction of the Babylonians. He was speaking in tongues and flailing in the aisle, to which the man began to freestyle, 'cause he wasn't afraid to go that extra mile. Up the Rocky Mountains he began to hike. He'd study up there in order to become godlike, and prepare for the moment he saw coming, where everyone would be his name humming. He knew he'd have to come down after a while, to face the crowds that he knew would be hostile. When taking the trip down, he'd go that extra mile. Nielsen ratings didn't like his content, and the ad revenue was no longer being spent. So out in the middle of the freeway he'd hold up rush hour until it got too cold. And alone in his room it felt the building bile. So he'd start playing bombs in the trash pile. He'd blow it all up to go that extra mile. He turned away, tried to defend him, and requested he be allowed to sing a hymn to millions watching on every channel. This was angrily dismissed by the panel, who did not enjoy that it smiled, and wasn't taken very seriously this trial. So multiple life sentences sent him that extra mile. Violet had a fire in her heart she wanted to start. She had a pang in her chest that was starting to smart. You said, hey, don't worry about all the pain. Before it was all over, you were standing out in the rain. Don't walk alone or try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. Ebony seemed to float above all the gutters. You couldn't help but open up all the shutters. She looked in your window and you pretended to be training. Behind your glasses, you can be seen to be straining. Don't walk alone or try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. Hazel put her bag on the conveyor belt. To remove her shoes and socks, she knelt. You looked a little too long and she broke, disappearing behind all the guards' smoke. Don't walk alone or try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. Raven used your likeness in one of her sketches. You don't see the resemblance as everyone retches. She's already working on her next manuscript, and the copies of her last one have already shipped. Don't try to walk alone or try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. Sage planted all the trees in this meadow, and even though they grew well, it was too slow. She hasn't been back since it turned into your yard, 'cause she found life out here way too hard. Don't walk alone or try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. Ivory could feel what you're selling in your eyes. There was no reason to continue the lies. She never mentioned you or this occasion, 'cause she understood the art of evasion. Don't walk alone and try to brave the sidewalk. I know too many unscrupulous characters to name. Olive knew just what to do as well as how. When she sees you coming, she slips out a chow. Your attempts at response are met with frustration. But luckily, your seat doubles as a device of flotation. Don't walk alone and try to brave the sidewalk. I know of too many unscrupulous characters to name. You woke up one day and threw off your comforts. Everything here has gotten quite stale and it's time to bail. They hit you like the invention of Braille, an experience like the Holy Grail. You sold everything you own and buy a veil, as well as a seat on a boat set and sail, thinking that maybe you'll see a whale. Yeah, you have to let the whole world know the tale, because if you start receiving visions, it's gonna muck up all your decisions. The ticket is scanned and you find your place. The workers below are busy shoveling coal. The indentured servants are looking out the keyhole. The captain is walking around on patrol. He's ready to hang any traitors on a pole. When you speak, he asks, "What's your role?" You start asking him about his soul. He's trying to throw you in prison without parole. Because if you start receiving visions, it's gonna muck up all your decisions. When you land, you have to traverse the jungle. Who knows where you're going or where you'll be? All you can see is tree after tree. The colorful poisonous frogs are telling you to be carefree, but you're too busy looking for the banshee. You wonder which direction will take you back to sea. You start to wish you'd taken the chance to flee. You start looking for outside paths for any kind of fee. Because if you start receiving visions, it's gonna muck up all your decisions. You stumble upon the tribe of the uncontacted. They've got customs that you're trying to fix. You want to shake them and say they're out in the sticks, but you realize their ideas and yours don't mix. The people that live there are up to your tricks. They aren't interested in your different types of bricks. You hold up to them your personal crucifix, but you're disappointed when they fail to transfix. Because if you start receiving visions, it's gonna muck up all your decisions. Out in the woods for a new audience. The gorillas are starting to take action. The monkeys are breaking into a new faction. The vultures are starting to gain traction. The crocodiles are now the main attraction. The centipedes are searching for satisfaction. The scorpions are tallying up every infraction. The snakes have made you their new subtraction. Because if you start receiving visions, it's gonna muck up all your decisions. They were reading about a film that had changed the future. The problem is that everyone assumed it was lost forever. The last reel had been polluting the oceans for some time now, and no one had been smart enough to make any copies whatsoever. In the back of their mind, they just knew it was not only real, but could actually provide enough to make his discovery a lasting endeavor. There's still people alive today whose lips aren't sealed. They thought the idea of finding and interviewing them was quite clever. Because true meaning can't be created. It has to be revealed. They entered the house of an old man that claimed to have seen the film and had feedback. He'd seen it on a date when he was with his future wife, who'd recently died from complications following a heart attack, and who he'd loved so much he wasn't sure life was worth it. How do you keep it moving when all you see is black? To live my life without her is blurring my whole vision field. If I lived in a previous century, I'd have asked to be placed on the rack. Because true meaning can't be created. It has to be revealed. They thought with the old lady down the street there would be success. Her savvy mind immediately honed in on the subject, or at least the one with which she was concerned. Her first child had been born with a defect that had kept her from accomplishing her goals and fitting in and with others be able to connect, in hopes that one day that her wounds could be healed. She had joined quite a controversial religious sect. Because true meaning can't be created. It has to be revealed. Another man contacted them and said, "I know what you're looking for." They were surprised as when they showed up to the man's home, they were shown a tape that was a bootleg of an inferior film. Something that wasn't worth being placed in a catacomb, with actors squawking and trying to crow their ill-rehearsed lines, and a quality of picture that demonstrated quite the syndrome. They took it out, and from the cover it was peeled. Just to make sure no one else watched it, he sprayed it with foam. Because true meaning can't be created. It has to be revealed. They finally were able to run down a historian who could give them the insight and background, which would help them piece together the puzzle. The historian remarked that not many people come around because interest in this medium is quickly dissipating. While for the last scraps we continue to hound. With the work you're doing, if you do not yield, then all your findings I now must impound, because true meaning can't be created. It has to be revealed. He'd just gotten into quite a fight. His parents wanted him out of sight because they felt his brain had been placed by dark spirits into a can of waste. So he went to the train feeling disgraced, but at least he'd head to Vienna. There was some sort of noise, but I was on the telephone. Something happened, but I was on the telephone. Maybe next time I'll be paying attention. You don't always get to see something like this. After the fact, the family head shrinker said maybe he's a fiend and a drinker, because he'd copied out of so many books that they wanted to throw him in with the crooks. But his client got off for having good looks, and on the train he saw one he helped to win. There was some sort of noise, but I was on the telephone. Something happened, but I was on the telephone. Maybe next time I'll be paying attention, because you don't always get to see something like this. I guess I should have been looking. The world around me is cooking. At this point, who tries to concentrate? My best friend has resorted to hooking. I don't read anymore. I call it booking. How else can I get anyone to concentrate? Our brains are crushed grapes. Call it concentrate. Oh, hold on, I lost my train of thought. It went off again. There was some sort of noise, but I was on the telephone. Something happened, but I was on the telephone. Maybe next time I'll be paying attention. You don't always get to see something like this. He sent the man so many letters his bag bulged, and every plea and request it indulged, and he left schedules all over the place, waiting to be a key part of the race. But in the end, it was part of the case that the Almighty was displeased with a fist. There was some sort of noise, but I was on the telephone. Something happened, but I was on the telephone. Maybe next time I'll be paying attention. You don't always get to see something like this. The truck in front of me was wearing only buyer tags. Blown out of the back were 50 paper bags. I swerved to try to miss all of them, only to suffer the consequences of an unplanned fate. And the wind blows a million printed ones, landed in the mud trying to mix with the rainbow. It skates across the sky over the speed limit, and the red light cameras craned for the mug shot. In abbreviated European plates it sped by. It read that it was from the nation of the fruit fly, a new republic created in the center of autocracy, where the man in the booth waves silently, and maybe a bit too seriously as it fills the puddles of the acid rain from the coal mines, where the towns ran on script and lawns, so freshly cut they were more than a little secret. Vanity license plate listed every place in Mexico. It was running right back against the border flow. The patrol spits in the dirt and covers its eyes, while the fireworks blast for independence. and the wrong month of an unused lunar calendar. This stopped spinning after unexpected eclipses, blew a hole through my roof, and ended my citizenship, which caused me to reconsider the existence of my hometown. Through the lots, it spun and left scabs, running over all the mice created in labs. 39 canines collect their specimens, and agree that it was all in good time. But I shake my head in vague suspicion that something scandalous was happening here. That's when I inspected all the many culprits. Call me surprised when I had my state's plates. They told me he'd just been back from Japan to spy. How I remarked that must have been a long flight. I squinted when he told me he felt quite well. That had never been there was not a bombshell. The speaker of the conference said I could get rich. All you have to do is find your niche. The people to the front began to swell. They're stomping on people and sending them to hell. He stood on the stage and told another lie. During the world's formation, I was the God's ally. The fervor of the crowd's mouths fermented. Those who disagreed were to be internally tormented. I used to lie and concoct the whole world in my brain. I linked them one by one as if they're a chain. I convinced someone that I had experienced the celluloid. I kept going until everyone's confidence was destroyed. For my birthday, the gang brought me into an empty room. When I walked in, it hit me with a boom. They wrapped my body in a shag rug. I guess that's what I get for being too smug. He doesn't sleep at night and blames his pills. He stomps through the house inhumanely. He's shoving things inside him to give him chills. People carry him to bed rather vainly. He really won't do anything to make a difference. How do you expect him to get through the day sanely? They'd have meetings about what to do with him. They drew up a real neat and foolproof plan. But it'd make him abandon it before it began. If you're looking for chaos, he's the man. The other residents lie without their eyes shut because they're afraid he'll burn with the mic. He puts metal in there to cook a walnut. He doesn't read the label but does what he feels like. Every time they hear the beep and the plate spins, they're on next to the neighborhood to spike. They have meetings about what to do with him. They drew up a real neat and foolproof plan, but it'd make him abandon it before it began. If you're looking for chaos, he's the man. They found all their possessions taken apart. All the nails are loose and the screws stripped. The resident assistant asked him where did he depart? To the hardware store where he's opened ship. Everything he needs to put it all together. They were so mad they'd have him whipped. They'd have meetings about what to do with him. They drew up a real neat foolproof plan, but it'd make him abandon it before it began. If you're looking for chaos, he's the man. They burned down my castle to kill my household. He's complaining his long hair isn't coming in as he was told. They kept it too short despite how I beg. I'm bleeding out on the ground, tired of being the egg. The firefighters pulled me over with their truck. With their jaws alive, they got me unstuck. When I woke up, Jesus had taken my leg. I put myself back together because I'm tired of being the egg. I got stuck having to compare fake stamps. I really love this job. Thanks a bunch, Gramps. The seeds are frozen over and I register his name. Because they shut off the cable and I'm tired of being the egg. They put me on a shuttle to go so far. Then I'd already be dead before we got to the star. Luckily I remembered to fill up the keg. Because I need it in the work cloud and I'm tired of being the egg. I forgot to pay my taxes and fled to Antarctica sliding around on a sled, since I'd forgotten to fill out a form to rent a peg. We'd all starved to death out there, tired of being the egg. They brought in the Red Army and put me in a shallow grave. They hacked into my solitary brainwave. The man on the street says this happens on the reg, but I circled the wrong answers because I'm tired of being the egg. For me, she was a little too religious. They let her into college, it was prestigious. Despite her suffering from carpal tunnel and going by Meg. Her teeth need work, but she's tired of being the egg. The guru was telling me I didn't kill enough birds. Last I heard, he was living with the Kurds and trying to pass off his name as Greg. I didn't follow him because I'm tired of being the egg. Grandmother's house is quite haunted. Every room pumps out propaganda, but she's not daunted. She keeps gunpowder in the cabinets instead of nutmeg. I'm pouring it all out because I'm tired of being the egg. The grocery store shelves are completely empty. They're only selling spiders in their webs. Be sure to take a view when your car hits the house. Suspicious man with his shirt and vest on wonders why he's not getting electronic credits for his purchases he made in 1985, when the world that he's in spun in the opposite direction, and the numbers on the sign split off into pieces, and he had to follow each one to see where it led. And the caravans carried only the cargo of the young, who'd aged out of retirement and its subjection. He's checking all the videotapes at the door for their sizes, scanning them to make sure they're alright. Oh, that's a nice one, he advises. The Inquisition master got off at 3:45. He fires the flame out the window, not caring how many wildfires he starts. He gets mauled by Smokey, who's carrying the tires to a motor that has no engine, because it's being shipped from a country's railroad, was partitioned off by a mob of greedy waiters, who split their tips with the cook at the raw fruit restaurant that ran the butchers out of town, and commandeered their knives because of the strawberries. They like to pop and burst into people's eyes. He's checking all the videotapes at the door for their sizes, scanning them to make sure they're alright. Oh, that's a nice one, he advises. A feeling of anger rose on the collective chests. The raiders all felt it in the bottom of the well, that they dug to impress the girls who hung at the back, of the shop where they sold garbage packaged as granola, in order to trick those wearing fairy wings into buying, because a sinner's dime is equal to the righteous, who tend to hoard their belongings under their mattress. So when the ringleader comes in, they notice the cover, which is painted in brown and speckled with glitter, which flakes off and burns the ears of the helpless. They're with their palms out, but it's not from begging. They just got a cool tattoo and it's stinging harshly. He's checking all the videotapes at the door for the sizes, scanning them to make sure they're alright. Oh, that's a nice one, he advises. One is a fake and another is broken. If you insert the coin, it'll be immobile. The machine blinks fiercely, and you may think it's broken. But the money is parted into a billion little pieces. Absent from the remains of those who copied, the man with the carpet shouts as to why you can't. Bury the rest until you found the replacement. His voice's cadence disturbs even the initiated, who wonders if he'd been completely misplaced. While the elected official shines lights in his eyes to see if anything is left in there but static. He's checking all the videotapes at the door for their sizes, scanning them to make sure they're alright. Oh, that's a nice one, he advises. I made it known I was disappointed in the doctor's sleep. He was playing with the alarm clock and humming. Throughout my dreams, at every second I heard the beat. He was laying under my bed, playing the bass and drumming. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave with my head steaming. The whole complex heard the entire debate. It was playing directly in everyone's speakers. I'm not sure who's winning when you berate. So loudly you disturb even the tweakers. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave with my head steaming. I stood up in the meeting and let my feelings known. The others all hissed and against me plotted. I was surrounded on all sides but felt alone. My standing in the group had completely rotted. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave with my head steaming. My trunk is weighed down by the bulk cargo that I've been forced to purchase against my will. Wondering what I did to deserve such a stow, I looked in the mirror out the back and it was spilling. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave my head steaming. The one in charge says, "Hey, get to work." And the protector says, "Don't take that from him." With tears in his eyes, he goes berserk. I fill the complaint box with my pseudonym. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave my head steaming. My heart is palpitating. What's going on? I can't sit down without feeling like I'll explode. I won't settle down until it's all gone, 'cause I can't talk to people while I'm in this mode. Why is it every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave my head steaming. The machines wouldn't take my car, so I slammed the door behind me and kicked open the one that was barred. I let them know I was just trying to pay the fee. Why is it every day that I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave without my head steaming. I found myself yelling on the phone because the technology hasn't been invented. The representative tells me they've been put on loan. I'm wondering how people can be rented. Why is it that every day I'm so upset? Every conversation ends in a match of screaming. Every person considers my presence a threat, and I have to leave my head steaming. We were hanging outside a fancy but decaying hotel. It once housed all the people that had struck the oil well. Today it just housed the bums like me they kept out of doors. All the people that remember its past bit the comet like the dinosaurs. I bet you can still get in there if you really know some folks. But my only companion was my sidekick, who could only make some jokes. He said he noticed some shifty dudes with stains on their ties. One of them shouted at us that the dead had begun to rise. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. It really didn't turn out all that bad. I'm spending most of my time cleaning my mind of debris. I looked for a place to stash my material possessions, in case they were worth anything after these progressions. My sidekick told me he was afraid to die, without experiencing the feeling of authentic love by someone who thought he had earned it and was not delirious. At first I thought he was exaggerating, but he really was serious. He wasn't joking like I thought at first, and so now I'm looking for that place that'll get us out of here somehow. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. It really didn't turn out all that bad. I'm spending all of my time cleaning my mind of debris. At this moment it's all fading away and I can't see the next 12 hours of my life being reduced to a text that was drunkenly rolled up and shipped by the hotel supervisor that's collected the cash registers of every miser who laughed when they reinvigorated Journey to the Front. of the place where it was all staged as a marketing stunt to get the place back open, and for that we had to fry. But I guess every pathetic person needs to find themselves a fall guy. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. Remembering the apocalypse dream before it escapes me. It really didn't turn out all that bad. I'm spending all of my time cleaning my mind of debris. In the desert were bad off. No food, no water, no the baby cried. They complained about their fate in life and wondered what they could do on this day. They asked the leader and woke him from bed, but this mistake he could not ever forgive. We could really use a snack or a soda, said one of them in a voice so very small. Oh yes, said the leader and got his box. Opened it, he placed at all their feet. Out of it climbed a serpent and a snake. Before one made the first bite, it told him, "You're really talking out of your ass." The king said, "Now we have a snake problem." And so he built a high wooden snake statue and told everyone to bow down to it and sing a little song about their newfound hunger. The snakes feasted on the prey by the pole. This was certainly the worst place in Mexico. The exterminator was fast asleep. People were banging on the big red door, but his ears were covered and his hat on. No heat on because he forgot to pay it. And the air and the fan were broken too. When he woke from his slumber, he told them, "You're really talking out of your ass." Ballard was a true man of the Wild West. He kept his 6-shooter on his right hip and his long rifle placed on the left side. He never had to use them because of how he was respected but not so feared. No one felt the need to challenge him. One day some gold showed up on his doorstep. It had a note attached to its bag. It read, "This is from the very king itself. Work for me and we'll take the whole world. I need a man with a gun and some eyes." Ballard tore the note and said to himself, "You're really talking out of your ass." The king's mad at the exterminator, because when he got off his fat ass, he'd rigged the place with such a poison that it killed not the snakes but the women, that the king liked to keep in his harem. He shed tears unlike he had ever had before when his favorite swallowed the poison cake. He wept by her bed even as she choked on all the words that would have condemned him. See, the woman didn't in fact love the man because he would respect her kidnapper. She was only able to say the words, "You really must be talking out of your ass." Ballard was having a night on the town, breaking bottles over the heads of men whose politics were frankly out of line. All debates have to finish like this when alchemy's the main philosophy. The exterminator tried to confront and shouted at Ballard about his teeth. The indentured salesman's very nervous, and the bartender has become quite ill. They all looked at them in complete silence, wondering as to how Ballard would react. He turned and told the exterminator, "You really must be talking out of your ass." The exterminator waved his forearms and asked the bartender, "Did you see that?" The bartender bent over a bucket, since he had too much of his own supplies. The indentured salesman's no help either, because he's addicted to laughing gas. Ballard pulled his gun out and fired wildly, and the exterminator could not duck, nor can he cover as the place shot up. His skull was pierced and fatally wounded. The bartender soiled all the evidence. The indentured salesman's chuckling and said, "You really must be talking out of your ass." When the king heard about all this, he smiled. "I've got to get this Ballard on my side," he said as he counted up his figures and sent all his messengers to the bar. Ballard again dismissed their presence, but the bartender said, "Look at that gold." The indentured salesman salivates and tells Ballard that only gold is true. Take advice, obey the king to be king. The bartender nods as if with agreement. The exterminator only twitches. "If you turn all this down, son, all I'll say, you really must be talking out of your ass." Ballard bought all the surviving around, then drank everything that was remaining, because the bartender started sleeping. The king's messengers needed an answer, and probed the drunk man to end his night soon. "It's only 4:30 in the morning, and I needn't be at work until sunrise. I can stand to be just a little late. Life is not made to be a filled-out form. I cannot be wrong to want more than you." Ballard's placing his hands on their shoulders. This time the messengers were who told him, "You really must be talking out of your ass." Ballard drunkenly stumbled to his ride, and he climbed in and couldn't get it started. He contemplated what he would purchase with all the king's men and his gold. "When his conscience tries to best me," he mused, "I'll drown the thing in some laughing gas." He hit the ignition, nothing happened. The gears would not turn or try to sputter. He hit it as hard as he could 3 times, but the response was a silent nothing. He smacked it again and yelled in anger. His donkey turned to him and said to him, "You're really talking out of your ass." They placed riflemen on the building and pointed a laser in my left eye. I shut it out in pure annoyance, and the shot missed just a little high. I'm running. I'm not exactly sure what I did. I'm running. On the bright of my head, everyone bid. The feds brought in the mob boss and laid some briefcases on the table. When he opened it, it was full of diamonds. Please excuse me if I start to feel a little unstable. I'm running. I'm not exactly sure what I did. I'm running. On the bright of my head, everyone bid. After I finished the entire meal, the waiter informed me I had poison pills. Crushed up in every entree and drink. It didn't do much, but it made me too high to pay the bills. I'm running. I'm not exactly sure what I did. I'm running. On the price my head, everyone bid. Cigar Wednesday was off to a rough start. I asked the tobacco man why the gap exploded. He wrote some things down and laughed. I found the messages a little foreboding. I'm running. I'm not exactly sure what I did. I'm running. On the price of my head, everyone bid. I was hanging out with all the fishes and enjoying my brand new scuba suit. The shell down there was looking a little bit innocent. It was a booby trap, started to shoot. I'm running. I'm not exactly sure what I did. I'm running. On the price of my head, everyone bid. Well, little friend T-shirt had some trouble. He was really living in a bubble. He wanted to make it better, so he sat down to write a letter. He thought of who to write it to. He thought of everyone he knew. A lot of people hate their dad. It is not exactly a new fad. It was the best letter ever sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but friend T-shirt needed it off his chest, no doubt. Friend T-shirt started listing his complaints, and he didn't show any restraints. His daddy kept him from his pearl, the one whose hair was always in curls, though she never got his wanted permission, because in his eyes she was just a magician, aimlessly banging away at a drum, or picking up everything she could strum. I promise it isn't the money I'm looking for, she would at all times on her knees implore. It was the best letter never sent. With his life he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but friend T-shirt needed it off his chest, no doubt. Friend T-shirt wrote to his dad he hates his 9 to 5. Is this what everybody has to do to survive? Punch in a few numbers, figures, and safety instructions, or looking at my health insurance deductions. I want to be a traveler, a hunter, or a drifter, not worrying whether my problems are mountain swifter. Or maybe I can stay in and ride at all hours of day, not experience any noise but the showers. Please don't make me go in tomorrow, I can't take it. They can't fire me, because I just quit. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but friend T-shirt needed off his chest, no doubt. Friend T-shirt's father seemed to bow 8 times a day, and read his book and then constantly be compelled to pray, and visit the sacred places and touch all the bones. He was always concerned about what would happen to his bones. Friend T-shirt didn't believe, and for this he was disapproved. The chanting outside the door wouldn't make him move. Still, his dad put him in a tie in the sacred week, and made sure above all his personal appearance was sleek. To friend T-shirt's complaints, his dad only shushed, placing his fingers on his lips in a move of disgust. was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. František's father brought him into such a terror that every time the door slammed, he feared his error. What had he done wrong today, or had he failed to accomplish the task that had been left detailed on a list with a time stamped for completion? Each ounce of his energy was marked off for depletion. His flying rage would make him cower in the corner, as if this would justify the action of the scorner. The letter served as a protest of the fury. He was trembling from the radiation like Madame Curie. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. František complained that when he was a young boy, out the door he was kept out and left to enjoy the freezing weather in the middle of the night, and that's what he gets just out of spite. Despite how he slammed against the door and shouted, František would not find the style of parenting touted in all the books he'd later read at university. And in this letter he'd point out all the perversity of the physical discipline that did not correct, but had not only his childhood, but his adulthood wrecked. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. From the seat of his chair he understood everything that the world had to offer in the reverie of the dreamers who try to do things like his son, who don't see that life is nothing but a hit and run. Every time František tried to communicate his dreams, he'd spend his time defunding all of his schemes. When he'd written a book, his father had it shredded and chastises him for trying to be so big-headed. But be honest, you can't take all the opinions in. It would make you ashamed to be his kin. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. But now, František's problems developed. In fact, he now felt completely enveloped. It became an issue of delivery, perhaps to give it to some man in livery, or to the postman who was running late, a man who couldn't carry his own weight. It still mattered that this would be informal, and little František wanted to be normal. He'd always take it in his palm, but instead, he gave it to his mom. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed off his chest, no doubt. František's mother read the abominable letter. She felt something crawling in her sweater. How can you live with a man your son hates? Maybe she could wait this out until it abates. She read it again to make sure of all the contents. Maybe her son had misplaced a few accents, and those can drastically change the meaning, but things are still the same after the second screening. She looked closely at the return address. To not send it back there would be entirely careless. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed off his chest, no doubt. When František got the mail that day, he took it with him to read at the local cafe. He nearly spit out his tea when he saw his envelope. He cursed his father and abandoned all hope. His friend suggested they try again, and then he channeled the rage by picking up his pen. František acted as to rip the thing to pieces, but his friend never let him give in to his caprices. He pocketed the letter for a later use. He'd bring it back out when he had an excuse. It was the best letter never sent. With his life he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed off his chest, no doubt. When it was flu season, František forgot his shot. His organs took off and tied into a knot. His father stood over him in perfect health. His power had worked in a way of stealth. See, I told you that you'd get it this way, but no matter what, I can't ever get you to sway. František wanted to speak, but his body rebelled. Every mean thing he wanted to say was withheld. After he croaked, his father lived a good 20 years, moving around in all his business spheres. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. František's friend held on to this writing. He read it again and did not find it unexciting. That the father never read it is no matter. He wouldn't have unless a waiter served it on a platter. He gave it to some curators and gave it a new home, a place where people could read it safely under a dome, and reconsider František's life in their own, and whether or not it was time to step out their zone. Because all people face times of change, even if the furniture needs a rearrange. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. When I saw it, I sat down to write something. Surely I had something to say that would make truth ring. I put something down, and then I put the whole thing down. If I ever actually finished it, I'd look like a clown. Best to keep everything the same and not step out. I've always found it best to keep to myself and not flout. So I'll wad up the paper and toss it in the trash. Better yet, I erase it, rip it up, and regret being so brash. I'd never write, distraction will beat calling back, which I guess makes my fate a little like František. It was the best letter never sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed it off his chest, no doubt. Now I'm only left to stop and reflect, and look around at cause and effect. I can be quite honest about my life, and how the unsent is filled with rife. I've burned out too many times. Maybe I should have handed out more times. People need them more than me, I never use them. After all this, who can I possibly condemn? When all of my plans and my future is wrecked, here I am today, only able to think a little František. It was the best letter ever sent. With his life, he certainly was not content. He composed a masterpiece he'd have thrown out, but František needed off his chest, no doubt.